If I told you that April would be the month of horror, you would rightfully laugh in my face. But I've got a list for you that'll send a shiver up and down your spine. Let's do a deep dive into the upcoming horror films of April that'll make your blood run cold. Let's get to it.
Now it is time to witness the many faces of death.
We're already 3 months into 2026, and if you're a horror fan, like me, I'm pretty sure you're still craving some much-needed jump scares at the theater. That said, there are some exciting horror movies releasing this April, and hopefully, these scary flicks will be about to please the horror fan in us and send chills down our spines. What movies are we talking about? Well, let's find out. And don't worry, this isn't an April Fool's prank, so stay tuned.
Don't worry, Grandma. It's fun to be dead.
Lee Cronin's The Mummy, April 17th. Egyptian mummies have long been one of my favorite horror tropes. There's something eerie about embalmed human cadavers wrapped up in bandages and left for thousands of years in a sarcophagus. I vividly remember watching Stephen Sommers' The Mummy back when I was just a kid in 1999, and all I could think of was mummies walking out of cupboards, and that was a long time ago. I'm really excited for what Lee Cronin has in store for us in his upcoming supernatural horror film titled Lee Cronin's The Mummy. The film's teaser was released on January 12th this year, and it showed us some glimpses of what we could expect from the film that comes from the same studio that gave us what most consider one of last year's best horror films, Weapons. The teaser also showed what looked like a young mummified girl in a sarcophagus, and the question,
what happened to Katie?
About a month later, on February 18th, Warner Brothers released the official trailer, which gave out a little more context. Apparently, the film focuses on the Cannon family, whose middle daughter Katie goes missing in Cairo, and 8 years later, the family is shocked when they get a call from the embassy saying they found their missing daughter, who's been missing for, again, about 8 years. And when they see their daughter, they're shocked because she's been mummified and kept in a 3,000-year-old sarcophagus. The trailer suggests the daughter is returned to the family, but what should have been a joyful reunion turns into a living nightmare, because now she is a mummy, and that's something we can make out from the film's poster, which shows a screaming mummified Katie and the words, "Some things are meant to stay buried." Also, the trailer again asks the same question, what happened to Katie? And that's what you're gonna have to find out on the 17th of April 2026 at a theater near you. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, the film stars Jack Rayner and Laia Costa as Katie's parents and Natalie Grace as Katie, along with May Kalamawi and Veronica Falcone. And don't worry if this film gives you Poltergeist vibes, because Lee Cronin admitted that his reimagining of The Mummy is influenced by Poltergeist and the mystery horror Seven.
Sorry. Did I wake you?
The Yeti, 2026, April 10th. If you can't wait until April 17th to get your monthly dose of horror, you might want to catch The Yeti on April the 10th. As the title suggests, this upcoming film is a creature feature monster film about the infamous monster who wanders the icy Alaskan wilderness of Canada known as Bigfoot, aka The Yeti. And no, I'm not talking about another upcoming Netflix survival film called Yeti. That's an entirely different film starring Chris Pine, Iona Bell, Ray Winston, and Sofia Boutella. And that won't be coming until late 2026 or 2027. The film in question is helmed by William Pisciotta and Gene Gallerano in their feature directorial debuts. From what little we know, it follows a rescue team assembled after two men go missing without a trace in the icy northern Alaskan territory in 1947. Oil tycoon Mariel Sunday Sr. and adventurer Hollis Bannister. The team is led by their children, Mariel Sunday Jr., who looks to be a politician played by Eric Nelson, and Ellie Bannister, played by Brittany Allen. However, as the search for the missing fathers ensues, the rescue team, who've been abandoned in the middle of nowhere, are stalked by an ancient prehistoric beast who's been there since before the birth of Christ, and he's hunting them one by one. I liked how the trailer, which was released across IGN Movie Trailers and Well Go USA Entertainment's YouTube channels about a month ago on February 20th, reveals the monster to be something that has evolved over 20,000 years of primal evolution, and how it teases the message, fear is primal. And judging by all the blood splattering in the trailer, we can expect this to be quite a gory film. And though the trailer doesn't reveal much of the Yeti himself, we do see a glimpse of a huge hairy monster toward the end of it. And just so you know, the creature design has been done by Wayne Anderson, who's known for working on films like The Predator 2018 and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Thrash, April 10th, Netflix. Survival thrillers make for some great horror movies, and if you don't want to catch the Yeti in a theater and want to watch something from the comfort of your own home, you might want to consider Thrash, which premieres on April 10th on Netflix. Written and directed by Tommy Wirkola, the upcoming survival thriller stars Phoebe Denever, Alila Brown, Whitney Peak, and Jamon Hansu as they try to survive a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane that decimates their coastal town. And just when they start to think things couldn't get worse, a meat truck gets pushed by the surging storm, and this results in blood being spilled out of the truck. As the trailer says, if the flood doesn't kill you, what lies beneath will. You get it? Well, they say sharks can't smell blood from a quarter of a mile, and what you're thinking is exactly what happens. The hurricane surge not only brings devastation and chaos, but also something far more frightening: hungry sharks. Just imagine you're braving torrential rain and floods and debris, and you have to now also survive a bunch of bloodthirsty sharks who flooded into your town. Now, the townspeople, who include a pregnant woman trapped inside a car in the middle of the hurricane, a marine researcher who's trying to help the people escape the town, his agoraphobic niece, who's initially skeptical about the hurricane, and a trio of foster siblings trying to survive while being trapped inside their home, must unite to survive as the deadly predators invade the town. Sounds like a pretty good survival thriller to me. Also, this film is not to be confused with the upcoming sci-fi Shiver, starring Keanu Reeves, since Thrash was titled Shiver at some point during its production. And, just for a bit of trivia, the film was originally titled Beneath the Storm, and was intended for a theatrical release from Sony Pictures, but it was renamed twice before Netflix bought the rights.
Here at Kino Moderation, we protect people.
Faces of Death, April 10th. Boy, April 10th is turning out to be quite a busy day for horror film releases, because we've got not one, not two, but 5 major horror releases on this date, and Faces of Death is just the third of the 5, and it's already looking like a pretty good movie. First off, Faces of Death is a remake of the cult classic 1978 film of the same name, which got infamously banned in more than 46 countries for its graphic content. But while the original movie featured a pathologist who explores gruesome ways in which people can die via footage of the many faces of death using graphic footages from across the world, the upcoming remake, directed by Daniel Goldhaber and co-written by Isa Maze, revolves around a woman content moderator, played by Barbie Ferreira, who moderates a YouTube-like platform called Kino, which is responsible for filtering and flagging any content that violates policy and is thought to be offensive or violent. The trailer shows the woman stumbling upon a series of violent videos or snuff films that reenact the graphic acts of violence, torture, and murder, including the iconic de-scalping scenes from the infamous 1978 film Faces of Death. As the content goes viral, she gets increasingly intrigued to find out whether these videos are real or staged. Meanwhile, the second official Red Band trailer was released just a few days ago, and the teaser and the first trailer came out about a month ago. And when I first saw the teaser and the first trailer, I was already invested in the film. I mean, it kinda gives a modern touch to a classic Mondo horror film directed by John Allen Schwartz, which is said to be made 60% using real footage from accidents, animal killings, and autopsies, and just 40% of it were staged. I also like how the teaser trailer built the excitement, saying stuff like, "Every generation has a rite of passage. This is yours. We dare you to face death." And, "Now it's time to witness the many faces of death." Meanwhile, the film also stars Darce Montgomery, Jermaine Fowler, Josie Toda, Aaron Holiday, and Charlie XCX, and is being released by IFC and Shudder in association with Legendary Films. What makes this film even more special is the fact that the film's director and co-writer, Daniel Goldhaber, got the idea of making a film about violent social media content cycles after he briefly worked as a content moderator for a social media startup himself.
Their families are holding out hope. They'll be found safe. They'll be found safe. Safe.
Hunting Matthew Nichols, April 10th. Yet another worthwhile horror flick releasing on April 10th is this Canadian horror film written and directed by Markian Tarasiuk, who, by the marks, makes his directorial debut and also stars in the film. Hunting Matthew Nichols has been shot in a found-footage mockumentary style where a determined documentary filmmaker, Tara Nichols, sets out to find out the answers after her 17-year-old brother Matthew and his friend Jordan mysteriously disappeared without a trace after they went out for Halloween activities and didn't return to their homes or show up for school the next morning. About 23 years ago, on October 31st, 2001. The trailer suggests that Tara wants a better answer to the question of what happened to them than the one she has. So she sets out to find the truth and starts making a documentary. However, over the course of her quest, she finds some disturbing pieces of evidence that make her start to believe that her brother and his friend may still be alive. The trailer also suggests that the disappearances could have to do with some sort of cult or, as one of the characters says, things we shouldn't speak about because when we do, it gives them power, makes them real. And that's the real mystery of the film. Oh, and by the way, this movie was completed in 2024 and has been shown at various film festivals, including the Newport Beach Film Festival and Whistler Film Festival, as well as Nightmares Film Fest. But it's scheduled to release in the US this year. The movie has been called a sneaky, simmering take on true crime horror genre by prolific filmmaker Steven Soderbergh, and pure grade A found footage by A Nightmare on Film Street. And, FYI, the film's director says he was inspired by true crime documentaries that he watched on Netflix, and he was also inspired by the myths around forest creatures when making the film. It also suggested that the film was inspired by other found footage style horror films, like The Blair Witch Project and The Ring. So, if you're a fan of slow burn found footage style horror movies, you've got your pick. Exit 8, in theaters April 10th. If you hate subways like I do, then you're better off staying away from watching this movie. Or if you enjoyed the subway scene from An American Werewolf in London, I think you'll love it. I'm talking about Exit 8, a Japanese mystery psychological horror film that was released in most parts of the world in 2025, but is coming stateside only in April, and it's yet another April 10 horror release we're talking about here. And I'm not sure how many of you have played the Japanese video game called Exit 8 by Kotake Create, but this movie is based on that game. And just like in the game, the movie follows a man who becomes increasingly desperate and claustrophobic when he realizes that he is trapped inside an endless subway station passageway, and the only way out of this endless subway loop is Exit 8. However, to find the exit and get out of the loop, he needs to complete a simple quest, which requires him to follow some rules, which are quite simple. Rule number 1, do not overlook any anomalies. Rule number 2, if you don't find any anomalies, don't turn back. And rule number 3, if you find an anomaly, turn back immediately. But there's a catch. Even a single oversight would send him back to the beginning. I watched the film's trailer, which was released by Neon, which, by the way, acquired the film's North American distribution rights. And I honestly don't know what to make of it. But the trailer indeed gave me some anxiety, and I'm sure the kid, the bald walking man, and the lady are all symbols of something. I read somewhere that the painting that he sees is a metaphor for the life of the lost man and that of the many others in Japanese society who are trapped in an endless infinity loop, just as the industrious ants walk their path on the infinity loop over and over in the painting and don't really get anywhere. Now, this has me curious to know if he ever makes it out of Exit 8. Another thing that makes me want to watch this film is the fact that it got an 8-minute standing ovation during its premiere at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival on May 2025, and the fact that many acclaimed critics have actually loved the film, calling it a clever and unshakable nightmare and a film that should get solid cult status beyond Japan.
Kei konei koe, kamua kamuri.
Mārama, April 17th. Let's be honest, we don't get to see a lot of films from New Zealand. I mean, the country has a very rich colonial history, and Mārama is a really fantastic gothic horror film from New Zealand that talks about its history. And as some of you may have already guessed by its title, the film is about the Maori people, who are the original inhabitants of New Zealand. This masterpiece of a movie has already been shown at various film festivals, including the Toronto International Film Festival on September 5th, 2025, but will have a limited release in the US on April 17th this year, alongside Lee Cronin's The Mummy. So you have two good horror movies to watch out for on this day, and if you're looking for something more dark and gothic, I recommend you watch this one first. So, let me tell you what I know about this film. Okay, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the trailer and read some reviews online, and from what I know, the film is set in the years 1859 through 1890, years after the great British explorer James Cook first discovered New Zealand in 1769 and claimed it on behalf of the British Crown. Around this time, a young orphan Maori woman named Mary, or Mārama in the Maori language, receives a letter from a mysterious stranger claiming to have information about her parents. She is summoned to Yorkshire, England, where upon her arrival, she meets a British man named Nathaniel Cole, who offers her a job as governess for his granddaughter, but the mansion just doesn't feel right to her. Soon, she begins to uncover the truth of her horrific colonial heritage. The trailer shows the British man speaking the Maori language and telling Mārama that he knows her people, and that her people are magnificent specimens, which kinda gives us a hint at his sinister character. Although I highly doubt if this film gets the kind of release as the other films on this list, the way the film has been received by critics and audiences. In fact, Variety magazine has called it fabulously gruesome and grotesque, and critics on RogerEbert.com mentioned the film has a strong sense of the genre, redefining an atmosphere of dread, and a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes compels me to want to recommend this to you. Although, let me warn you to check with your local theater or Fandango and Atom tickets to see if the film is playing in your area, because the film will only be shown in select movie theaters across the US. So with this, I think my horror watch list for April is sorted. What about yours? Which of the movies are you looking forward to watching this month? Which movie has you the most excited? Tell us in the comments down below, and before I leave, I have a small request. Smash that like button if you enjoyed watching this video, and subscribe to our channel for more like this. Until next time, see you at the movies.